with. So what was the book that changed your life, do you think?
Probably say two. The E-Myth. Have you got that in there?
No, we've not heard that one. So the E-Myth, am I putting that right?
Yes, that's it. I think it's by Richard Gerber.
We find it, we put the links in, people can get it easily.
Awesome book. And that talks about putting in processes to your business. Now, I read that probably 12, 13 years ago, and it that really resonated with me. And I changed the business. I put set processes of how we were doing things to make sure we maintained quality standards, and if you're employing people, then that's really important. And then probably more recently, I absolutely love The Slight Edge. Have you read them? The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And what he talks about, and this goes back to the 90-day plan and making sure that you're doing things consistently. Yeah, that's it. So, and it's about the small, what you think are small, insignificant things, if you do them consistently over time, transform your business. And I'm a massive believer of that. It's not about, well, I'm going to do all of this for this month and everything's going to be wonderful. It's not like that. It's about being consistent and doing things every single day that need to be done.
There have been so many, but I went back to right at the beginning where all of a sudden something really impacted me. And it was at the age of 11, this time when I was becoming independent and having to look after myself, where actually I read James Herbert's The Fog and the Rats and anything I could get my hands on of James Herbert's that I'd gone from The Faraway Tree and Enid Blyton and all of those things and Five Go whatever, to suddenly this adult book. And for me, that impact of, there's a different world out there, and I hadn't been exposed to any of this type of stuff, and I just loved it, and I just lapped it up, and I just wanted to get there as quickly as possible. Probably why I was so independent. And you talking about having a job at 17, at 16 I had 6 jobs while I was doing my A-levels. Every week I was doing 6 different jobs at the time. I just wanted to get into the adult world as quickly as possible. What about you?
So I don't have a book that changed my life, and I'd love to address that. I'd love somebody to give me a book or tell me to buy my own, which would you'd have to post me one, that's crazy, which would change my life. I mean, I read a lot, so I probably do read a book a fortnight. I read an awful lot of books, but I read easy to read, crappy trash, maybe a few decent books mixed in amongst those. So I'd love someone to tell me what book's going to change my life.
Okay, I think The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I ran my business just wanting to achieve, terrified, looking behind me of not making mistakes I'd made before. And I really missed out on actually enjoying what was going on.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think if you look back, sometimes you take last year, we all look back and said, oh my God, last year our businesses were going so well, our placements were coming in, this was working. What's going to happen in the future? And we spent all our time terrified about the future and regretful because it wasn't like the past, and we didn't actually enjoy that moment. And I think I did that throughout my career all the time. I always wanted to do bigger, better, faster, more, that I never actually stopped to say, hold on a second, where am I today? Where am I today? Let me celebrate where I am today and take time to just think, am I fearful? Anything you're fearful about is never in the present moment. It's always in the future. And I think that anxiety causes a lot of people problems. I think recruitment, we really are an industry that if we don't look after ourselves, we can have big burnouts. And so actually just bringing it back to the moment and saying, actually, and that book did that for me. The Power of Now taught me to actually listen to the voice in my head that talks to another voice in my head. That's how I remember the book. It's something like that. And also tells me to just in this moment, am I safe? Am I secure? Is everything all right? And take that moment to then it's rebalancing yourself to then move forward with power.
Oh, I really struggle with this one because you want to pick something that sounds really profound, right? But in the I'm an avid reader, and I've usually got about 4 different books on go in different rooms of the house, and I kind of pick them up and put them down. In fact, I took the time to finish off a Matt Haig just before I came on this, really getting into his book. It's fantastic. So I picked a fiction, which is Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. Oh, I just love it. All about censorship and the decline of society and the decline of words. And there's a beautiful idea in it, which is you need to kind of choose how you're going to make your mark on the world. I won't spoil it for you because I know it's on your list, but look out for that quote about how you make your mark on the world, and let me know if it kind of lands true for you, because that's really good. And then the other one, which I didn't have with me because I lent it to my friend, is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It's all about how women can step into their power and retune into their intuition and change the world from that emotionally intelligent place. It's beautiful.
I can't give you one, like all these things. It's like being an absolute voracious reader as well.
Yes,
so
you can have a few.
So I've got different books for different themes. I was inspired as a child by just being lost into Lord of the Rings and David Copperfield and those. I really got into some of those books. When it comes to later in life, as you're growing and building, again that curiosity theme coming through, I think there are several that I would argue in certain things. First of all, when it comes to books to inspire teenagers, young adults, and even people in your team, the growth mindset and the curiosity is something which there's now a great deal of written about. Bounce by Matthew Syed, actually, is a short book. I'd really recommend that in terms of understanding how to get yourself into a positive mindset and actually go out and sort of and continuous learning and marginal gain, all that stuff. That's a really good book. The other one, which I think also in terms of learning, if you're going to get to work in a people business, social science has moved on a foot, and it's been slightly adopted by the political parties around particularly when it comes to unconscious bias, for example. But going back in time, the start from all this was the Daniel Kahneman Thinking Fast and Slow, how the brain works, cognitive biases, way that we actually behave based on our two parts of our brain, two systems. That's a really good book to pick up and just understand about sort of how people think and work. And in our business, it's important. I suggest you want to go and have a read of that. Yeah, if you want when it comes to management, you want to go and quickly get yourself with a system for managing your business. If you haven't been to business school, the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish. Vern Harnish's Rockefeller Habits book, a short book. You want to get to consistently get a business, particularly you've got different branches and you've got different. That's one which is a really good manual system how to go and run a business. I recommend that.
And is that just quickly? Is that as in John D. Rockefeller? And
yeah. So basically, it's the things that he applied, and it's a short book.
100 years ago, and that's 100 years ago. So it's still relevant.
But I would say that, and in fact, there's an entire sort of gallery of people now, disciples to this whole Vern Harnish approach to Rockefeller. He's now got a thing called Gazelles. It's a really good management tool. I'd recommend that.
Brilliant.
If you're struggling with motivation, well, in a positive way, read some good biographies. Anything to do. I always thought that Lawrence of Arabia would be, sort of one of those people. What a guy in his 20s managed to achieve in 3-4 years. Go read that. If you're really struggling, and a lot of us are really struggling, and then this is my go-to, I probably buy about 10 copies of this a year to hand out, is Touching the Void, Joe Simpson. I'm sure you all read that. Some of you haven't. That is a book which just is, if ever you think you've got it tough, just read that.
Yeah.
It's not so bad. So there you go. There's some examples of books.
Love it.
It's by Jackie. I'll find the link. I need to send it to you. It's a very personal book, but it's a sort of semi-autobiography about a lady who chose love over being a mother. And for me, that's quite relatable. And then how her decision kind of changed throughout her life, but didn't realize until later. and how that affected her. I need to send you the link. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it, which is shocking because I should have had it written down, but I have got it. I think it's called This Particular Happiness. It's called This Particular Happiness.
Okay.
This Particular Happiness. And it's by a lady called, I think, Jackie Shannon Harris, I think her name is.
Yes, it is. Jackie Shannon Hollis.
Hollis, that's it, Hollis. That struck a real personal chord with me because I don't have children. I'm 48, and it wasn't necessarily my choice, but I've kind of been perceived by somebody that by lots of people. I'm a woman of a certain age and I don't have children, so you kind of get that. What's wrong with her? Or that. What's wrong with her? And both of them are equally insulting. So that's a book that really resonated with me. I've just finished Michelle Obama's book.
Yes.
Oh, so good, so good. I've just started Barack Obama's book, but I'm listening to that on Audible, and it's 34 hours long. It's crazy. But yeah, I really recommend Malcolm Gladwell. I really recommend Unshakable by Tony Robbins. Another really good one. Really good book. And just a little light-hearted but quite meaningful, I think, book, Remarkable People by Dan Walker. I've just finished that. He's the BBC breakfast presenter. He was the one that sort of brought Sir Thomas More to the fore with the campaign and got him the flyover and stuff like that. And Sir Thomas More is just one of the remarkable people that he's met over the years as a BBC presenter. And I really enjoyed his book. It was quite light-hearted and not as egotistical as some other presenters come interviewers, that kind of.
I really struggled with this because I've read lots of books and I've taken snippets of them, but I wouldn't say there's one that really made me go, oh my word, this is it. The first book I ever was given by one of my old managers was Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
And I now give it to my coaching clients when it's needed. So I've still put that on the list because it's just a great little book to flick through, isn't it? But the biggest one that's impacted my business is this. Measure what matters.
Love that.
And what I found was, like anybody else in recruitment, 20 years, or before I picked that book up, probably 17 years. And I was looking at measuring the traditional KPIs, what I'd always been told we should measure. And I realised that I was not focusing on the right things and I wasn't measuring the right things. And so now we work with OKRs, we have objectives and key results, and we have a framework that allows us to be an ambitious business with our goal setting. But also it aligns the team and it gives them clear objectives as well. And that book, I would say, has had the most impact in LHR and my coaching business. We don't have job descriptions. We have team charters. We have a personal compass. So we don't have the traditional HR methods of our standard processes. We tweak it and we make it fit us so that we can deliver the best we can deliver, rather than following, you've got to have 10 registrations and you've got to bring 5 new vacancies in. Well, if you bring 5 vacancies in and you can't fill them, what's the point?
It's a big statement, isn't it? Changed your life. I'm not sure it's changed my life, but there is a book that was very important to me, and I've got it here, actually. It's the original copy of it. So even after I set up my own business, I read for the first time The Little Prince. And the reason it changed my life is that I'd sort of been on this track of business, and the practice was almost looking at life in black and white. And The Little Prince helped me see life in colour. It made me see the magic in the world, and it also made me realise the kind of importance of creativity and imagination and drama in business. And ever since then, I've almost had 2 careers. I've had a career in the arts where I've managed a jazz singer or produced plays at the Edinburgh Festival or in the West End. as well as being in business. And by the way, there's no money in that. A good year in literature is when you don't lose money. But The Little Prince was the book, and this is my original copy. It's got someone's lipstick in the middle, actually. Okay, so I've kept that. That was a nice book. Then, more seriously, 7 Habits, Stephen Covey. I think it's a brilliant book. 7 Habits of Effective People. Good to Great by Jim Collins. I think that made a big difference, and I think he makes a lot of sense. But if you do get to go on holiday this year and you want a good read by the pool, then I do recommend this book, Surrounded by Idiots.
Right.
It's really a book about it's a book about helping you understand how people communicate, really, and if we could be more sophisticated, understanding how we communicate with people, and I guess we'll get better outcomes all round. And it's just as profound for families and companies. So Thomas Erickson, Surrounded by Idiots, would be my book of 2021.
Well, actually, this probably feeds back into the other question, because I have a positive outlook, because there's always worse things in life, isn't there? Mm-hmm. So I've read I have read the classic sort of management books of Minute Manager and the 7 Habits and the Who Moved My Cheese and all those sort of things, which were all fine and I think all relevant. And I always applaud people if they're reading anything, to be honest, because it gives you knowledge, which comes back to the knowledge and confidence and all the rest of it. But totally, I suppose, off the wall, the thing that changed my life was a book, and I've got a picture of it, but I haven't got the books. I've lent it to somebody. It was I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Braveheart.
Diary of a 9-year-old girl who refused to die.
Yeah. So she had two cancerous tumors, and she wrote her own story, or she dictated the story. It was written for her, but it was as a 9-year-old how she fought and kept fighting, and actually got over the cancer in the end. And I had a sister similar age who had a brain tumor who got through it and got over it. And I think it was that back in the 80s that changed the way I was thinking. So, if it was a dreary day, I didn't moan, because there's worse things in life, and that's probably what changed my whole approach to things.
Oh, I love that. I'm just going to find I've got it here. I'm going to share it in the sidebar, because Angela's putting together a list of all the books.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I actually like the fact that we're sharing those kind of, like you said, the businessy books, and then the other books.
It's just quite an inspiring story, and
Oh my word!
And it changed your mindset from you'd cry, but it changes your mindset to having, like, you have a bad day or bad night out or something, and I used to go mad at people in the office, sort of moaning that it was too cold or too hot or whatever, or the coffee the coffee wasn't the coffee they liked, or the tea bags were. It's like, get a life.
Yeah. First world problems. I mean, I do entirely agree with you. Is that I do get frustrated by people who are kind of almost manufacturing something to be down about. Yeah. When there are, I think I love that book.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
That's okay.
The one is from Michael Ende, which is called Unendliche Geschichte, which is what is the translation in German, in English? What is the translation?
Can you just say it again? We might have someone on here that could.
Yeah, Unendliche Geschichte. Michael Ende is the author. So it's about a boy who is sitting on top of the house, very lonely, and goes into reads this book, and it's all about the fantasy. So what I learned about that is, if your fantasy, if you use your fantasy, and dreams can become true. So if your vision, your fantasy can drive your your big dreams, and everything is possible. That's what I learned. So so if it's all in your head, it's all in your mind, and you are the, you know, you are the one who can make it possible. And
oh yeah, no, I haven't got an answer. I really haven't got an answer. I don't really read books, I'm ashamed to say. Why don't I don't know. I don't think I can sit still long enough to read books. But what do I do that changes my life? I like the news, and I am addicted to the news, and I'm addicted to LBC radio. And I always have been, but because of the pandemic, I became obsessed with it. And these earphones that I've got, I walk around. This is terrible, actually. When I go running, if I haven't got a friend with me, I will LBC radio it, and I'm listening to that as I'm running. I go to bed with this on, so I'm listening to LBC in the night, much to my husband's shock. My son, I've got a 2-year-old son to school, and I have this in my ears. How bad is that, when I should be listening to him? But I don't want to miss any news. So, and the reason why is I like to be on top of the news is, you know, especially because of the pandemic. I really think so. Politics, I'm very upset. I mean, we're in an industry. Recruitment is about people. It's about employment. It's about taxation, the economy. So it's massive. The news and politics affects us so much. So I want to know about everything as soon as it comes out. So no, it's not books. It's the news and the media and stuff like that. So that's changed. That changed my life.
So I took a year off university, and I was in India, Pakistan, Nepal, Israel, Egypt, and I read several novels by James Clavell. So I read Shogun, I read Noble House, I read King Rat, and Noble House just takes you to Hong Kong, you know, and Shogun takes you to Japan, and it's traditional. It's the history of the places. It's I don't know, codes of honor, love, and you know, whatever in the Far East. Just a lot of interesting kind of subplots that go on in these mega sagas. And I was just determined to work in Asia, really, or at least work internationally. So I came back, I applied, as you know, to the Hong Kong police. I also applied to the Foreign Office. I was accepted by the Hong Kong police first and called to interview for the Foreign Office, but I'd already accepted. So kind of a sliding doors moment for me, really. If it'd been the other way around, we might not be talking today, but don't regret the path that I took. And certainly those books were influential in pointing me towards the Far East.
It's funny, I was really thinking quite hard about the answer to this question. And I remember years ago, because I presume it might be quite a lot more sort of senior individuals listening to this. I remember buying a book years ago called The 1 Minute Manager. And in fact, I just ordered another copy of it today. I haven't read it for years and years. So that was one book when I was, you know, embarking on my management journey, and it kind of gave you 3 strategies. And in fact, I couldn't remember what the strategies were, but it was around setting goals, praising people, and reprimanding them. And I remember that specifically one about if you are praising someone, perhaps try and touch them, you know, even if it's just on the arm or. And I think I just automatically still do that now. If I was face to face with someone, just put my hand on their arm. Some people might flinch, but you know, just getting out a little bit of contact with that individual. But I just ordered that book today, and then I just bought this. I haven't just bought it. This is my second copy. Maybe you have to. Arianna Huffington Thrive. I think that is a great book for women in particular, and yeah, sort of teaching you about how to have it all, and but. Obviously, it starts with her working 18-hour days, having a very successful business, but not living the life that a successful person perhaps would have, and how she went about addressing that. So that's been, a great book for me.
Wonderful.
So this is my second copy.
Well, that's not one I've heard, and I do rate her, so that will go onto my list. Thank you very much. The 1 Minute Manager I still use, and I do situational leadership. So I know Ken Blanchard did the foreword to that. Spencer, I'm trying to remember in my head.
Two people who wrote it. He was one of them. Absolutely.
Yeah. So they do the 1 Minute Manager with the leadership combined as well.
That's right. That's right. I saw that today on Amazon.
Yeah. No, I do a 12-month program, and I give that out as one of them. Do you? Yeah. Well, I got the 1 Minute Manager. I became a manager in recruitment at 23, and I was given that book, and it made
same as me. Yeah. I don't know if I was 23, but I was definitely very young. Yeah. And that was the book that was given to me by my stepfather, actually. And I just thought, but it's such a short book as well, isn't it? So it's very digestible.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorites because I've always loved books, and I still do. And my daughter, until very recently, until this week, actually was a bookseller and managed bookshop. So it runs in the family. 3 books. The first one's Christmas Carol, which I read at the school. I think I would have been about 9. And it was in a Dockland school in Southampton. It was very run down and very working class, dare I say it.
Was it actually called Docklands?
No, it was called St Mary's, but it was in the Docklands. It was
okay, that sounds
very rough. It looked like one of the reasons that it resonates is that it looked like, in fact, it may well have been a Victorian workhouse.
Oh, gosh.
Because it was that building. That was the same building as the workhouses were held in. But it was that when I first, 9 or 10, I realised the power of words and imagination. I can't remember the exact quote. It was Marley was dead as a doornail. And then he goes into the whole exposition of how dead a doornail is. And I'm thinking, this is amazing. This is on the first page. I'm thinking, this is amazing. That was the first time I can remember really it changed the way I thought about things. My favourite book of all time, which I read again regularly, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, even though he was known more as a philosopher than as a writer. It's the classic every man on his own against the world. But what a world, what an imagination. And for anyone that saw the TV show and hasn't read the book, it's nothing like the book, I can assure you. There's a hell of a lot of sex in the TV show, which obviously I had to watch it just for technical reasons. But
research.
It was exact research, yeah. But it was the books very not like that at all. The book is absolutely amazing. And in fact, my daughter, the bookseller, bought me a limited edition for a Christmas present last year.
Oh, wow.
And I suppose from a business perspective, if you're interested in business books, the classic of all time, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. It's still the original and it's the best. And pretty much every training course I've ever seen is based on that one way or another. Positive attitude, etc. And it is a very, very interesting book. It's very dated now and it's very religious, probably too religious for modern European tastes, but it's still absolute classic, and it's definitely one for the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got 2 answers here. The first book that changed my life was when I was 22, traveling in Australia, and I read Richard Branson's book called Losing My Virginity. I've got to say it was actually quite a lucky scenario because I was employed to work for the equivalent of Sky in Australia, Foxtel, and they went. Some of you might remember this, but when it all went digital, there was a big thing about when TV went digital, and Australian had their digital, situation happen. And on the day we were all hired to sort it out and make sure you manage all the appointments. On the day they went on to go live, all the engineers went on strike. So I basically got paid for 2 months to sit in an office and take no phone calls. So, I'll be honest, I played a bit of table tennis, but I also read the entirety of Richard Branson's book in a very short space of time, and it was unbelievable. Just in terms of, for me, how brave he was to just try different things out. And a couple of things from it. He learned how to swim, I think, because his grandmother chucked him in a river when he was like 6. So, it's probably not, the health and safety like this day, I wouldn't like it, but it's probably quite an effective way of doing it. But I wouldn't advocate it. When he first started Virgin Airways, which is obviously one of the the world's premium brands in terms of airlines, I think it was a holiday in the Caribbean somewhere in the late 70s, early 80s, and plane was cancelled, so he chartered a jet and found some staff and wrote on a board that, you know, flights cost X amount of dollars. There you go. Yeah, everything he's done. It's just a fantastic book about, you know, all about the history in the music industry and some of the artists that they signed. But what came across to me was that sense of pushing yourself and being brave. And I think he's a really great example of that. I really love the quote, and everyone in the office will tell you this, but I love the quote, "Ships in harbours are safe, but that's not what ships are built for." And I just think sometimes having a life where you probably could have gone to there, but you got to there, well, I'm still pretty happy, but, you know, being fulfilled is all well and good, but what about if you could really reach your potential? So I just think it's a good way to think about it. So that's the first one. The second one I read, I listened to it, all about audio books these days on Audible. Over lockdown, when I was, you know, like a lot of people, probably feeling a bit melancholy and what's going on and with this pandemic. And it's a book called Can't Hurt Me by a guy called David Goggins. He's a bit crazy, if I'm honest. He's a bit crazy. And I'm sure you put the link in there, or you've done it already for everyone to see. He's the only guy to have qualified for the 3 major US Special Forces. He had a horrific upbringing. I mean, literally, like, his dad used to keep a gun underneath his bed, underneath the child's bed, and was, you know, beaten by his dad. Awful upbringing. And he was like really overweight, probably in his like very early 20s. And he came home one night from his job as a pest controller, like killing rats and cockroaches and like takeaway joints, and saw a video for the US Marines, and something clicked in his brain, and he qualified for it. But yeah, I mean, he went through all 3 of those. You know, the Rangers, the Marines, and the other one, I think the Navy SEALs. He broke the world pull-up record. Also, he got into ultramarathons, and there was a bit in the book when I remember I was running up a hill near me. Now, it's a bit of a hill, it's well known in the UK, in the Lickey Hills where I live. And I was running up the hill, and it was getting a bit tough. And it was the very bit in the book when he was doing his 100-mile race, and he realised one of his legs was broken, so he stopped. Now, most of us at this point would go, "Oh, I broke my leg. I'm going to call an ambulance." Well, he taped it up and carried on running. And then I'm a bit further up the hill, and then he realises that he's broken his other leg. So now he's got 2 broken legs. And he just thinks, I'm just going to carry on. So he tapes up his other leg and carries on. And I thought, right, not a very sensible thing to do from a you know, a health perspective, but that sense of almost mind over matter is just unbelievable. And he talks about, you know, when you do, I don't know too much about this, but when you do manual work and, you know, you get calluses on your hands. I'm a pen pusher, right? You get calluses on your hands. He talks about having calluses in your mind, in your brain. So you go through adversity to build up that almost that sense of it getting a bit tougher, a bit harder. So yeah, the whole story of the book is just unbelievable. And the audiobook's brilliant because it's almost like a bit of a podcast where in between the chapters, the podcast host talks to about the next bit. And I just find it incredibly inspirational. And he's an unbelievable guy. And he's all over social media as well. So David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. Speak it out.